Bing Wang, thanks very much for joining me today. Much appreciated. I'm very excited to have you. How are you?
Good, good, good. Thank you, David. I'm very excited as well. Thank you for having me.
So you have a long, outstanding career, and you're in the pinnacle of cybersecurity. You're handling responsibilities at the top end of the scale for some very known companies. Why don't we start with cleaning our palettes and just walk me through memory lane? Just, how you started, how you got into technology, because your background is philosophy, actually. And
Yes,
you've got
yes.
out.
So,
Why don't we start with that?
yeah, definitely. And, to the point, my background was philosophy. I even got my master's degree on philosophy, and really at that time meant to do even further, like a PhD on the program. And my husband wanted to come to United States. That's around 94, 95. So I kind of like followed. And I said, okay, why not? United States probably have a lot of great programs on the, philosophy. So I started actually also in liberal arts first, and in University of Illinois and Urbana-Champaign. And quickly, and within the first year, we realized it's kind of tough, right? Kind of tough when you have like liberal arts background or major. My professors in UFI were from Harvard, like that. So, hey, if I go to PhD, what will I do afterwards? And also, we compare, like my husband was in MBA. So it's like when you look at the business professors and professors in history, literature, or philosophy, it's like very different from the compensation perspective. So we're thinking we're young enough that we can pivot, right? Let's get our financial things stable before we, pursue our interest. So that's where I was trying to figure out what I do, what I should learn. And University of Illinois has a great computer science program. And that's where I pushed myself a try to do computer science. And that's where I got my master's degree. And early 98, I started working for Netscape. Netscape was a very pioneer company for the internet and browser, famous for its browser, and also originated from UFI. So I was very, very proud as part of the Netscapers. And I was doing development, and at that time, because it was a dot-com world, and the whole internet came out, the whole e-commerce just bloomed. Right, exactly. So Netscape not only had its browser, which is really commercial, not individual, right, for the end users, but they also have a lot of server side of product to support e-commerce. At that time, people start to know 3-tier applications, the 2-tier, which is client and server. So we'll provide web servers, app servers, portal servers, so many software that support e-commerce. And I just jumped on that, did that for 5 years. And I had my first kid, and I realized traveling every week should not be my priority. It does not help for my family. So I decided to take like a local job in Chicago. I was in Chicago. And I actually had 4 offers in my hands. 3 of them are all application development, architecture, and even one of them, the company used everything from Netscape. So basically they're saying, just tell me what you want. We'll meet your requirements. And then Allstate was the only company offer me application security engineering role, where I was thinking, number one, that I kind of know what is application development. I can see a little bit of future, but security, I know nothing about it. I also believed security is not a field like development. Security is probably needed in every single field. In other words, I will not be bored for the rest of life if I do security, right? You want to learn this so you can do better on the secure side of it. So that's a big reason for me, says I think my future in front of me is, bright. The second thing actually really stuck with me at that time is when you generally hire people, you are hiring for experience and skill sets. I did not have experience on security. I did not have probably what they're looking for as skill sets for a security engineer. If they want to take a risk on me, I'm going to take an opportunity, right? I was very excited. And since then, 2002, never regret that I entered into security 22 years ago. So
Amazing. Amazing. And if you don't mind, and we'll continue the journey, but I have a couple questions. First, it's remarkable that when you were studying, you were looking at the practical aspect of what can I do with it afterwards. And it's not trivial because a lot of times, people are getting pushed and they say, hey, do what you love. And then things will just fall into place. And then they end up, some of them end up in a, non-favorable positions because they have degrees or skill set that are not marketable. And then, but it's also timing and circumstance. One would say that now we digress, but now we say with the AI, we actually need creativity. We need people that are able to do what AI cannot do. Mm-hmm. And it's really remarkable. So what do you think that specifically for you, most people would not think about how applicable my degree is to, the continuation of me able to support my family, be happy and have opportunities in career. So what made you specifically think about it at such an early stage?
I still believe, even right now, I still believe that passion, interest should play the number one role in anything we do, right? So the most important thing for me at that time is that I look back to say, I definitely loved philosophy, sociology, psychology. I'm just into people part of it. I love it. And at that time I was saying, I just don't know what computer science is. You know what, right? I want to give a try, right? It's not like I don't like it, so I should not do it. It's more of, I don't even know if I have an interest to do things like that. Let me give a try. So when I have that, I can try. It's not preventing me to, do anything else. But I think to the point you have is, at that time, I had to consider reality, right? We came to a foreign country. I probably at that time was even thinking in Chinese before I translated into English, right? We're already behind many things. So I think that's probably the real life to say. You need to consider survival and financial stability for the family while you merge, right, your passion and interest. Of course, I still don't think I will pick something I don't like. And I still think this whole thought process benefited from I was major in philosophy. I think that taught me, look at many things differently. Right? How do you look forward? How do you look abroad? When do you go deeper? Right? All the things. I think it's mindset that I was able to train that mindset early on. And I think that benefited me a lot. And that's why I'm telling my kids, I don't know what major you would do in college. One of them doing neuroscience, one of them doing business. But I highly encourage you to learn philosophy in your college time, to learn more things that you think does not matter, but actually long-term will teach you lifetime skills, not the skills of the hard skills, the mental skills.
Yeah, 100%. And this philosophy is really, first of all, let me just say this. It's one of the disciplines that's actually not easy. It's liberal arts, but it has not an easy degree. It's not it's not something that you can just pick up like this. It's a very complex, it has a lot of complexities involved in philosophy. And you're right, it's amazing that I think that the industry as a whole, the cybersecurity as a whole, benefits tremendously from the diversity in backgrounds that people have. Not just cultural background, but also academic background. Whether it's music, whether it's philosophy, whatever the case may be, a lot of it can be applicable to being a defender, being a cybersecurity professional, and looking at things from a different angle. I think the strength and diversity in this particular case, it has related to the background, the academic background, or otherwise, even experiences, right? So people that come from various job experiences that they can apply to the job. But you went ahead and you now have 3 master's degrees.
I do. I do.
Tell me about a bit about that journey of yours, and this is while raising family and to being a professional. Why did you decide to pursue? You continue to pursue additional. So was it because you never pursued PhD? You said, okay, I'm gonna just compensate for that. I'm gonna have 3 masters instead.
Well, my parents, they were the management in the university. So I grew up on campus, or I really academic thinking, where naturally my mom will expect me to finish PhD, right? It's like, oh, you should, or even postdoc. But, because I left China after I finished my first master's degree, so my first degree in the United States basically still stays in the liberal arts background, right? So that's where I start, because here, generally your PhD program, it could either directly go to PhD or you do master first and extend it to PhD. So I was trying the master first. And then during that time, that's where I pivot to totally different major. And that's where I don't have the undergraduate for computer science. So I need to get a degree in order to train myself, right, on the computer science. So I kind of changed that a little bit over there. Not because I want to pursue number of degrees. No, I just want to get enough skill sets, right, so I can find a job easily. And again, that's 90s, right, where computer science was rising up.
That's commitment. That's commitment to the profession. So once you decided that the cybersecurity is the route to go, you made a commitment to support that decision, meaning that you went over and pursued additional training. In this particular case, it was academic training, but you a continuous commitment to learning, which I'm pretty sure you do this today. And by the way, I've seen this as a successful professionals in the cybersecurity space are curious and are in the path of continuous learning, where do not stop. And in your case, it's evident because you have this, we have the degrees to show for it. But it's something that's continuously done.
Absolutely, I agree. And I think that's a key thing. Doesn't matter whether you are in cybersecurity or not. I think that's a key thing to have is the curiosity, willingness to learn, willingness to be challenged, and not afraid of things you don't know, right? Step up and then do the things.
Now, it's also really interesting, the intersection between computer science and philosophy. So, for example, now, when we're building AI models, they're looking to see how we can integrate logic and that has some philosophy background to it to the AI model. So, for example, if you're a self-driving car and you're about to hit a pedestrian, and it's a woman with a baby running right on the crossing sidewalk, and then there's an old man on the sidewalk. So you have 2 options. The car has 2 options: either run over the woman and the baby, or divert and potentially hit the man on the sidewalk. The old sidewalk. So that's a philosophical question that maybe potentially an AI engine would have to make, right? So there's an intersection between the philosophy and you can start having a philosophical discussion whether should.
So definitely, there's a lot of influencing, I think, from philosophy on the computer science and how you kind of leverage both. But when I switched to computer science, I realized one huge difference. Where in philosophy, there's no black and white, no right or wrong. It is really depend on how you see it, how you articulate it to others, how you they paint the picture or story for them, and whether they are able to believe your, school of thoughts, right? So it's really about that. Where I went to programming, the first program class, and I was giving a Java program to write, and I planned everything. I thought through everything. I thought through everything. And I wrote, I don't know how many lines of code. And of course, I ran the program. I failed. I'm thinking again, so what did I go do wrong? I could not figure it out. And I was stuck. And I went to my friend, who, of course, is a software engineer and trying to help me. So here's how he helped me. He was in front of the computer. I was standing next to, behind him. And I still remember that moment. He turned around to me and said, watch me. And then he turned back to the computer. He started typing 2 lines of code. He started running the program. And he said, for computer science, for writing program, for programming, you need to debug almost every line because you may just go wrong direction. That's where I suddenly realized one thing. Computer is simple. It's zeros and ones. It's in a way black and white. If you go this way wrong, just turn around. You will have it. So I think that moment let me realize, oh, now I know how to handle programming. And I think that will help me a lot about doing coding. It's actually not too bad. It is really understand that, and if it's not working, just turn around. And going back to your use case about this kind of like legacy question, on the train track, there's 5 people, there's 2, who do you race? All of the things, there's not a simple answer. There are a lot of contexts to support every decision you make, right? It's, I should save the 5 people. I remember this. Let's save up because that's 2. And then the next context is the 5 of them are, what they do, lawyers, president of the United States. And then, there are a lot of things in your decision making every day, right? Is because based on the context, based on what you know, and based on all the relevant information, you try to make a best decision out of it. To a degree, almost everything, insecurity or not insecurity, or in the family, friendship, life, most of the things are gray, no black, no white. You just try to make a right decision at that moment. It could be wrong, right? But it's not right or wrong from that end.
Absolutely. And we see that today where organizations are trying to protect themselves, right? So there's a lot to be said in terms of what strategy should I pick, right? So if you look at the foundations of certain frameworks, whether the zero trust, and it's almost like there's always this it's also a philosophy, right? Are we protecting our devices? Are we protecting our data? Are we protecting the data at rest? Are we protecting data in transit? What do we encrypt? A lot of it has to do, as you mentioned, in the context. And then I think once you become a CISO, I think that it's all about the context. So you have to realize now as a company, you have to realize what it is you're trying to protect. What's most important? Is it the 5 people or is it 2?
Yeah.
But in the context of cyber,
Yeah.
is it these machines with these running these critical infrastructure, or is it this? And then we have limited resources, obviously, and
Yes.
have to weigh the risk associated with a potential hack or potential things that happen or breach, and then mix it all together and put that in a cauldron, and mix it all up and then come out with some strategy that you hope that will be successful.
And not only that, right? Also that the risk management, it's never be a one size fits all. Every company, what they do, how they do it, what stage they are in, all what regulation they have, all of this context that for us will make different decisions at a different company, right? It's really based on that, and also the risk tolerance of the whole company. The same thing, maybe one company will say, nope, absolutely, we're not going to take that risk. But another company at a different stage will say, yep, we'll do it. So it is really, like, back to the point, it's like, not black and white, but it's more contextual. It is more of like doing the right thing, doing the right thing at the right time.
So if we build upon the experience with building software, which, by the way, I struggle with Java as well. Just so you know, I've done 4-year computer science L, so I've done some Java programming as well. I still remember trying to develop an elevator simulation. In an object-oriented language like Java, with all the classes. It's a little bit of a pain. But for a long time, you had to do on-the-job training, OJT, where you're coming from a different background. Maybe you have the aptitude, obviously, to learn, but you are learning as you go in your first role because they made a bet on you.
Yep.
What was that process like? At what point did you realize that first of all, tell me about the process of I'm sure you had to kind of fake it until you make it kind of thing. Tell me about that process. And when did you realize that was the right thing to do to make that decision? Because you also made a bet on yourself. You could just as well, blew it all up. And maybe you can still land on your 2 feet and do something else. But at one point in time, you realized that you made the right choice. And then what was that learning process like to really become from the moment you're kind of fake it to make it until you actually know that you know what you're doing?
Maybe two things on that. One is to say, definitely in the beginning, I still remember my first assignment. I should not say assignment, shadow. I was shadowing someone to do that. Even though I was shadowing him, I was trying to prepare something. So in the real meeting, the second day, right, I can't understand others. I remember I was in a hotel. I was so nervous, anxious. I had no clue what I was doing. And I think for the first 2 weeks, it's just like totally paranoid. I don't know whether I slept at all. But I think of that very beginning, and you trying new thing, I think that's kind of like normal. But I was like, I forgot to mention one thing. Before I came over, because I just finished my degree, I never really worked. Wow. Right? So after 3 masters, it's my first time working. So I think that kind of fear is coming. I don't know what does that mean. But I think in the very beginning, I'm very nervous. But again, because that's the opportunity of shadowing others, I observe people. And that's, I think, a good quality on my side is observing and learning quickly. And even right now, like any conversation I have, I was telling my kids, I said, this is how we do it. Any conversation I try to learn from the conversation, particularly if you and I have a different opinion. I keep thinking, why you are thinking different than me? What I don't see that you are seeing, right? So all those kind of critical thinking applied from beginning. So anything I observe, I keep learning from them.
Just double click on that. Most people don't do that either. Most people, all they think about, how can I say something to contradict what they're saying, and still, they don't think about how the other person, where they're coming from and why is it they're saying it. All they think about, they can't wait until they stop talking so they can emphasize what they want to say and prove them wrong.
Yeah, because I think behind their head, maybe people didn't notice, they try to prove I'm smarter than you. That's why they're trying to argue with you, disagree with you, that whole thing. But I think everybody takes different time to realize that's nonsense, right? You don't need to prove anything. You are just you. So I think, again, back to the philosophy thing, I learned so early on about all those kind of things. I don't care about how things. That's why the critical thinking applied in the early on, my work. So that's really helping. And then the second thing you were saying, when did I realize it's the right thing to do? I don't think there was a moment, just because as long as I started to try the security thing, because I started as a security engineer, so it's still computer related. So I just started to know, I like it. in Chinese, we say there are two kinds of people. One kind, they do what they love. In other words, they love something first and they do. And then there's other kind, is they love what they do. You do things and start to fall in love with it. A lot of people in China, I mean, the traditional way is like they don't even know what's their passion. They just do something and start to love it. Unfortunately, that's kind of my path. Is like I started, I like it. I think I like it more. I like it more, like I said, because security is different in different fields. You have infrastructure, network, application, identity. You have just I was just into the learning mode. I was so happy of being challenged, learning something new. I don't think there's one point that says, oh, this is the right decision. I just never regret it.
So it wasn't a love at first sight. It was more
No. No, you're right.
So tell me, but again, if you look at the career path, what people don't realize, it's never roses and sunshine, right? There's some difficult moments where you're either made a mistake or somebody else made a mistake and you had to carry responsibility for it. So any memories that come to mind that they were difficult, that you maybe were doubting yourself, or that you were thinking, okay, maybe, I know I made the right choice, but it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be?
Maybe, how do I say this? Maybe because of my mentality, which helps to say along the way, all the mistakes I make, I never feel terrible about it, because I always turn that into why did it go wrong, and why I didn't do what I should do, meaning looking for opportunity to do it better. So it's like along the way, all the things pile up that probably never get a point of, oh my God, this is a terrible mistake. And, it's a bad dent in my life. But I think one thing I can share is very interesting one. So I started my first real CISO role, and my friend told me, I've been giving you a heads up. Every CISO first time fail. I said, no. No. What do you mean fail? We never fail anything. And he said, just remember that he said, the reason I'm telling you this, don't put too much pressure on you, right? I said, okay. So I remember what he said. And when I look back to the first time being CISO, and I realized what he is wrong is because not everyone maybe, but a lot of us, when we were first-time CISO, even though I said you don't need to prove you are smarter than others, but you try to prove you can do the CISO role because it's your first time. People put a trust in you to let you do things. So when we have that pressure of, hey, I want to, prove I'm a capable CISO, I think to me, that's probably the thing is we try to rush into things because you want to show accomplishment. You want to show the value. Where CISO at the end really needs to rely on so many people to do security together in the company. So the relationship really matters, and then understanding the business context matters. So if I do it again, I would say I will slow down more. I definitely will slow down more. And of course, give the boss wording of we need to take more time to really do the right thing long term. At that time, I think I just tried to, hey, what is my 30-day, 60-day, 90-day goal? So people can see within the first quarter we produce something, right? Like now, it's like, I tell everyone I will do things fast and I will do things slowly as well. It is art, right? To say, how can you do fast, but at the same time you do slow?
But again, it's just to double click on the transition between a quote unquote individual contributor in cyber to now a C-level position where it's a mindset. Now you as you mentioned, you have to kind of manage the team, which you cannot rely without. You can't provide security, and then on top of that, you have to relay a lot of the information to executives, and then your set of responsibility now expanded exponentially. You're no longer responsible for this silo. You're now responsible for everything, and this carries some consequences. And so, was there and you mentioned that you had somebody to help you, and then they gave you an advice. But there's no, again, this is on-the-job training. There's no CISO school, quote unquote. Um, do you remember the first time? I'm assuming you had to go in front of a board and speak security to non-security people, and then also convince the business that that you're reliable, they can trust you.
Yep.
Also,
Yep.
you're a cost center, you're not necessarily a revenue center, so they always see you as. And then you have to sometimes ask for resources to protect, and you have to justify that. All of it has a very different set of skill set, again, from being individual contributor or different mindset altogether. Talk to me about that transition and how you managed to accomplish that.
So being an individual contributor for many years at Allstate, I was at Allstate, and I was promoted to this. They call that principal consultant, which are more of like very top level of individual contributors. And there was a small group of that in the company, and we all work together. A lot of things we do are more from planning perspective. So we are individual contributor, but we help with the leadership do many kind of planning architecture stuff. So I learned many things during that time about, non-technical stuff, actually, planning piece of it, budget piece of it, other than we do architecture. And then I actually raised my hand to my boss says, looking at my background, philosophy, I also mentioned I was so into people part of it. I told him I do believe not everything is a technical problem to solve, because at the end, it's a business problem to solve. I also believe we're relying on people to do the problem, to solve the problem, right? It's no longer you. You cannot do many things.
And I think you're being also to cause the problem.
True, true, exactly. So I think that I have a passion about people as well. So I raised my hand and says, instead of staying on the technical track, I'd love to take the challenge to be a management. And I was on the architecture side, report to the chief architect. And then he actually, gave me the chance to lead the whole security architecture team. That's the starting point of management. That was 15 years ago. And so that gave me more experience on being a manager per se, right? Being a management, what else you have to consider. And you are no longer dealing with the technical people or expertise. You are working with other ones on the business side of non-technical people. So that, in other words, what I'm trying to say is a lot of things are adding up, right? Adding up, and I became a director of the whole architecture engineering, and then become the deputy CISO. But I'm always still on this technical track, right? And then when I become the deputy CISO and the CISO, that's where the huge difference came in, where more business driven, more not really just presentation, but more persuading, more storytelling, more communication, more relationship, more risk management. None of them is hardcore technical stuff. That's where I think things added up to help that. But that's where I start to, more into how important the business lens is, and the communication skill sets are, and relationship building skill sets are.
So you ventured to that, and how do you, that was 15 years ago, and things have advanced so much. How do you still keep informed again, you don't need to know the details of what's going on, but technology is really evolving. We're getting like, there's new threats coming all the time. How do you keep yourself informed, while you're doing the kind of the management level, high level, that you still rely on these people that to help you in part of the team, but you also need to be knowledgeable to understand what it is that they're saying. So how do you make sure that as part of the continuous learning that you keep on maintaining that level of knowledge that you had like 15 years ago before you joined team management?
Yeah. Externally, I generate you two things. I'm not saying they are the great things, but I generate you two things. One is I belong to part of some group, right? You have a group of CISOs right now, but I also have other group as well where those people are the resources you can learn from. And if you have, questions, even the questions you don't know or the new things, we share a lot. So that's one. Second one is I'm heavily kind of on LinkedIn about learning things, people's posts or LinkedIn platform as well. And that's kind of like two major things I do. And then the third thing is that sometimes I do interact with like vendors, particularly the smaller vendors that are learning how they creatively addressing problem, like innovated solution for things. I think those things help me a lot on those.
I love that, Yabing, and it's really interesting that you mentioned that vendors. And I had a chance to interview a bunch of them, and it's really interesting because you're 100% correct. They typically are out of necessity because they have to make money. They're in the forefront of innovation. They're basically what it is. They're
Yes.
selling innovation
Yes.
to industry. And so there's no better, somebody to learn from than that person because they have to be innovative. And if they're not innovative enough or industry doesn't like it, they're not going to exist. So it's really interesting that, and I've interviewed CISO where they said that they carve out a certain section of their time to talk to vendors to see what's out there to learn.
Exactly.
And it's a great symbiotic relationship, right? Because then you learn and they potentially, they can get feedback from you as an industry expert, as a potential buyer as well. So
Yep.
From a perspective of frameworks, there's a lot of them evolving. There's just so many on a regular basis. Is there any, are you a proponent of frameworks? Do you follow any of them? Is it something you typically implement? Because again, how do you, there's a lot of fad in this industry, right? Fear, uncertainty, doubt. How do you distill that and make sure that what you follow is correct? Do you like any particular, analyst projection? There's this hype curve, if like the Gartner
Yeah.
comes out.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that process. If there's anything that you like or follow.
Before I answer that, I'll give a background, which is like more of me, personality-wise as well. I'm not really a compliance-driven person at all, right? Being engineer, being architect for really long, I told the security people, I said, we should be like the engineers and architects. What do engineers and architects do? What's their responsibility? Create stuff, solving issues, right? We're not there just to say no. We're not there to do check, okay, we did this. So my mentality is, how can I be flexible, right, to do the right thing for the business? So with that in mind, that when NIST framework came out, I think it's 2014, if I remember right. And I did some comparison, like I'm not a really ISO kind of person. I think they're very much audit-driven / compliance-driven. And NIST at that time, give us something different, I thought. Because prior to that, again, as engineers, we were doing a lot of protection controls, control here, control there. Where I like them make those 5 things says protection is very important, but there's part of responding, recovering. The recovery in particular is for the business purpose. Protection is for security, right? So I think I like they have like, more than just the traditional technical control, and then they have a lens of at the end, not only we do protection, we support the business resilience. So that's where I kind of, for the past 10 years, I kind of stick to this framework. However, I'm not stringent as it's, it's this ABCD, we have to do ABCD. I'm not like it. This to me is like a guiding principle. It is a guardrail, and let's make sure in general, each of the things. So I love to use frameworks. I love to have something. Every program we do, I say, what is the framework for the program? That's where you have the big picture, and everything you do, you can fit into big picture. So this is the one I like. I just don't do like exactly everything they ask me to do.
You're not religious. You're not religious about the.
Yes, not religious. Yeah.
You're practicing, but not religious. So, are there any particular technologies that you feel that are going to make an impact? Something that excites you from a new innovation in the space, and then maybe the flip side of that, we also see that those innovations sometimes being used to exploitation, meaning that there's two sides of the coin. One side that we innovating to protect, and there's also innovation to hack or innovation to breach. Talk to me about that and what do you see in the industry and how is it developing right
now? The easiest to answer, more obvious answer is AI, right? It is the one that I'm personally passionate about as well, for two reasons. One is the impact AI itself can do to me as an individual in my life, my world around me. I'm kind of fascinating to say those things happening around me. There may be a downside of that. So what do we know today won't be totally different. Now it could be destroyed by that. But again, I'm a very positive person. I don't say that. I don't want to say that part. I want to say all the good energy part of it. On the other side, I also see how AI can benefit the business. Absolutely benefit the business. Not only from the efficiency perspective, right? But also from, help decision making. Again, it could be wrong at this moment, but I truly believe the brain of AI is smarter than any of us, than like 10,000 of us, right? That decision making, even though it's wrong, it's probably better than me as an individual person. So it's in a way that I'd love to see that one really fly in business. And then similar to that, but very specific to security, I also want to use that, right? I also want to use that for how can I automate more, right? How can I do threat hunting more from AI perspective? How can I not to ask people to do any questionnaire, but to do, this easily, right? There's just so many, places we could do AI. Of course, at the same time, do I concern that our controls today is not enough? I do. But I think the whole industry is trying to learn, right? It's trying to learn that does traditional controls work for AI? Is that enough for AI? I know it's probably not enough. And I know there are areas that traditional security we did not look into that may show up, on that. But it's like that things excite me. We don't know this thing, so let's work on it. Let's figure that out, right?
And as somebody who was able to predict the future, meaning that you decided to, back in the day, to pick a profession that was growing, and you saw the applicability of cyber into across industries, and you've created yourself a very interesting, rewarding career for yourself. If somebody who is young watching this show and is thinking about going to cyber or thinking about studying something else outside of that, since you have a track record of making the right choice, what would you do today? What would you pick as a discipline? Or it doesn't have to be cyber, but in general, to be maybe AI proof, meaning that you're not going to get displaced? Or do you have any ideas about that?
Before I say what do I pick, let me share what I think could be the criteria for picking anything, right? So
yeah, I love that.
To me, ideally, the job, which you make money for your family, the job should have the three criteria. And in the order I want it, the number one order is passion. Do I have a passion of this? Like I say, I am fascinated by the AI, right? That's a passion. If I don't have passion, do I have an interest? At least let's have an interest. I don't want to do anything I don't like. I really don't want to do that, right? So first one, knowing what you like is very important. And then second one, knowing what I'm good at. I need to leverage my strength in the work, not my weakness. If doing something take me 5 hours, take me 5 hours, and somebody only take 5 minutes, that's his strength, my weakness. Why I need to waste my 5 hours on this, right? Figure out what's things for taking me 5 minutes. So be aware not only of your interests, but your strengths. I think that really settle down your tone. And then it's business needs. Business needs means, again, personally, I need to consider my family. So I'm imagining when young people trying to look at this, they are thinking, I will have my family, right? I need to have some financial stability. So in other words, business needs says, at this moment, right, does this one have a need in the world? Therefore, that if you are into it, there will be good reward, right? So at this moment, combined with the three, instead of trying to pick what do you call that? Pick a profession where you think AI will never replace. I'm telling you, AI can replace everything. So I think I will try actually to do AI. I will try to understand AI. Yeah. Maybe, maybe that would be a right decision again 10 years later.
No. When, like Wayne Gretzky said, you have to skate to where the puck is going to be, know where the puck is. So right now, we're doing AI, and maybe there's going to be a whole new professions that are being generated by, just like the Industrial Revolution, right? So a lot of jobs were missing, but then a lot of, you can become an AI mentor, designer. You can have a philosophy degree that deals with the AI-related issues. We're going to rely heavily on decision-making.
Yeah, with the awareness of your interest and the strength, you can always spot right thing.
That's right. So this has been a real fascinating conversation, but let me ask you one more thing.
Yeah.
You were giving the opportunity. Somebody made a bet on you. And
say it again?
Somebody made a bet on you.
Yes.
They bet and they won. They made the right bet. And I think this is something that needs to be, and I want to throw it out there. I don't think industry does it enough. Meaning, I think a lot of times industry now picks somebody who was in the exact same position they were, maybe even at the competitors, and that's how they get hired. We do not do enough as an industry to hire for aptitude, to hire for where they want to go, to give people chances to excel. And I don't think we do this enough. And I'm pretty sure you, as an executive, as somebody said, if you get to the top floor, you press it down and let the elevator go down so somebody else can go up. I'm sure all of that. Any comments about what I just said?
Definitely, if I go back, I think I appreciate two things, right? One is the CISO who hired me, who actually promote me to that individual contributor club, which I was the only woman there. I really appreciate her. Of course, I keep her informed of everything I do. She's so proud, right? But definitely there are people like those, really willing to help others. Find people who are willing to help you. They become your guide, right? Mentor or guide. Struggling yourself will take more time. Have someone guide you through will be really helpful. So I think that's something really helpful. The second piece is, we talk about a lot of things about me, right? Today, about my journey. I think one thing that I learned that really helped me is you got to think it's not about you only. You got to think what you can do for the world, what you can do to help others. when you are at the company, it's not about you get promoted only. You're part of what you can help the company move forward. I think when you have a low ego, that help you to do many things actually beyond where your potential will come out. So I would suggest people really to think that way. Yes, you want to be successful, but I'm pursuing more significant life than successful life. That significance means I'm making impact, right, on others. I think when you have that, your mentality will be shifted and you will have a more satisfaction of what you feel and what you accomplished.
Yeah, 100%. And I would say that because of that, you're successful.
Probably. I told my kids, I said, I never pursue money. It just came with that.
Yeah, Ming, it's been a real pleasure. Last but not least, how do people can follow you more? And I know you're active on LinkedIn. What's the best way for people to learn more about you, get engaged, get some feedback, whatever the case may be? What's the easiest way?
Definitely LinkedIn. I don't do Twitter, so LinkedIn, I always look at it. Like I said, I also learn many things from LinkedIn. If people have questions, come connect with me. I also just published the book as the co-author, co-editor. That the book is called 97 Things Every Application Security Professional Should Know. We have 97 kind of articles over there. I contributed one of them and was the editor of them. There are a lot of things people can learn application security at this moment. And that book is particularly towards people want to learn more about security and application security. People can check it out.
I'll definitely add a link. I'm assuming it's on Amazon or other places you can get the book.
It's Alrighty.
Okay, alrighty. So what I'll do is maybe I'll provide the link in the description of this podcast, and for people to interested to know more. And I'm sure it's maybe your first, but not the last. Listen, your inspiration to this industry. Thank you very much for joining us today. Much appreciated. It's been a real pleasure to know more about you. And Anup,
thanks again, David, for having me.
Do this again sometime soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. And Paul,
Thank you.
who joined, thanks very much for joining me today. Much appreciated. Stay safe online as well as offline. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for being.
Bye, David. Bye, everyone.